prison term is not a hindrance for the contract. The State Duma is going at the legislative level to allow citizens with an unexpunged criminal record to conclude contracts with the Russian army. If the law is voted on, then those who are limitedly fit for service will be able to become contract soldiers.
It is assumed that convicted and limited fit for military service will be allowed to conclude contracts only during periods of mobilization, martial law and wartime, from the publication of Medusa on Telegram.
Such an innovation only legalizes and formalizes the recruitment of prisoners in Russia, human rights activists say.
This means that prisoners will now not only be recruited, and this is in general a contract system, but at the same time contracts with them are not signed very well, because the laws do not give. Now, some very small restrictions will be lifted, but they didn't stop anyone.
The recruitment of prisoners in Russian colonies was carried out by Wagner PMC and the Russian Ministry of Defense. The geography of recruiting to Wagner and the Ministry of Defense is the whole of Russia.
In April, there was a record recruitment, 10,000 people, and in May the pace is quite preserved. Of the 60,000 recruited, 50,000 are recruited outside the law at all. The Ministry of Defense, unlike Prigozhin, it is more bureaucratic and wanted to put as many pieces of paper as possible.
According to the Russia Behind Bars Foundation, about 300,000 more people could potentially be drafted from Russian prisons. Now they are also recruiting convicts who have received a suspended sentence or are under house arrest. Also, penitentiary inspectors, when visiting the supervised, offer them to conclude a contract on the spot. They are promised pardon and high salaries.
Employees of the Penitentiary Inspectorate divide the categories of convicts. They do not offer a contract to those who have served time for murder, terrorism and pedophilia, preferring lighter articles about theft, beatings and drugs. At the same time, alcoholism, drug addiction and other problems of convicts are ignored by the penitentiary inspection, attracting them with the promise of high salaries and opportunities that men are deprived of by virtue of sentences. From the publication of the SOTA Telegram channel.
But high salaries and even the pardon of prisoners are no longer attractive. Recently, dozens of fighters from the Storm Z unit escaped, killing one of the soldiers of the so-called Ministry of State Security of the self-proclaimed Luhansk People's Republic in the process.
Since the beginning of the war, at least 42 Russian servicemen have been prosecuted for appropriation, storage, transportation and carrying of weapons, ammunition and explosive devices. Articles 222 and 222.1 of the Criminal Code. Verstka discovered this by examining the basis of all the garrison military courts in Russia. Judging by the already published verdicts, the Russian military is taking firearms found at the front or keeping unused bullets and grenades. They carry them to the unit in body armor, backpacks and sleeping bags. Then hide them in a secluded place, and when they go home on vacation, they take it with them. From the publication of Verstka on Telegram.
Soldiers returning from the front often commit crimes already in Russia. Recently in Novosibirsk, a Russian military man raped two schoolgirls, 10 and 12 years old. Before that, he threatened to blow them up with a grenade.
Returning home, they told the adults about everything. Now they are trying to find the rapist. According to Katya and Ira, he is about 30 to 40 years old, and the chevron on his uniform looked like the Wagner PMC emblem. Whether the unknown person served in a private military company is unknown. This remains to be seen, but so far the investigators have opened a criminal case. After the arrest, the man faces 15 to 20 years. From the publication of Baza on Telegram.
The financier of Wagner PMC confirmed that the criminal served in his company and fought against Ukraine. According to Verstka, at least 18 servicemen who returned from the war in Ukraine have already been convicted. 24 are waiting for a court decision. Reported by Roman Smoler, Victoria Smirnova, UATV News.